All right, thank you for your patience. Now, my request, I was asking anybody who is able to enable their videos, kindly, to be perfect. Sorry. Thank you, Shahali, welcome.
But probably, definitely, I will stop the video and mute when I'm not talking. I think it would be better.
Yes, that's okay, Sheikh. I just want the panelists, at least people to know who are the panelists, so that it'll be good, at least they know who they're talking to. But time to time, if you're not speaking, you can disable your video. It's okay. All right, so those who have not joined us, because I can see we are behind time and we need to keep our time. All right, so tonight, our meeting, mainly the theme of this meeting is the struggle for Palestinians. But now, we want to make sure that we stick to the theme of the conversation tonight. And the theme is awareness is the key to liberation. So every panelist that has been chosen to guide us on this conversation will try as much as possible to stick to the theme. Number two, any other participant who has joined the meeting, in case at the end of all the panelists who have presented, who have done their presentation, you are free to ask any question or any clarification that you may need. And number two, just to keep things in order, if you're not speaking, kindly make sure that you mute your microphone so that at least we can have one person at a time. And in case you have any question, like I said, we just wait for, there is a session for question and answer. Number one, so our program will be like this. We'll start with our panelists. Each panelist, I'll tell them to come on board, introduce, and give their presentation. Number two will be followed by a short video. There's young boys or young men and women from here in Kenya, or rather Nairobi. We recorded something small, so we'll try and share with everybody in the group. Number three, now we'll have a session for question and answer. If you have any question to the panelist, kindly you'll be free to ask. And in case there's any clarification from their presentation, also you are at will to do so. Then lastly, we'll have a vote of thanks. So I'm hoping that we'll keep our time. Each panelist has 10 to 15 minutes. Maximum, you have 15 minutes. So I think all our panelists are logged in. So I will start. Who will come first? We have Brother Mohammed Khalid will be the first panelist, followed by Marianne, and then we go to Sheikh Ali, and then our last panelist will be Naomi Barasa from Kenya Palestine Solidarity Movement. So I'd like to request Brother Mohammed Khalid. Brother Mohammed Khalid, I can't hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. That's fine.
Yeah, but your voice is.
Well, I'm speaking to you from Darfur in South Sudan, North Sudan. So bear with me.
Okay. No worries. Okay.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good.
All right, your floor is yours, Mohammed Khalid. You can introduce yourself
Yeah.
and do your presentation. You have exactly 10 minutes, but you are at liberty. If you have something to exceed, maybe the maximum will be 15 minutes, but your floor is
Okay.
yours. All right.
I'll try. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for organizing this event. My name is Mohammed Khalid. I used to be in Kenya all the time for the last 13 years. Currently, I'm in the north of Sudan, in Darfur, and I'm glad to be here. So let us start. As our colleagues just mentioned, I'm going to talk about awareness or lack of awareness to define identity and common causes, and how we can use awareness to mobilize people to rally behind and support any cause. Now, what is important for us is to really understand that awareness is a cornerstone because of any movement, where we cannot move without an information and evidence, which makes us able to communicate with people that we want to influence and people that we want to change and people that need our support. Self-awareness is a cornerstone in the whole process. So we need to know, first of all, whether who we are and what we want, what are our goals, and what achievements we want. Without having this information about ourselves, we cannot rally people behind us, neither we can reach where we want or we aim at. It's important when we talk about liberation or changing politics in any country or fighting dictatorship, it's important to know about history and current context, and also the grievances of people we talk about and people that we want to liberate or to support in liberation. Without having this understanding, we might be easily misled by the other side. So understanding the context as it is now is not enough by itself. We have to find out how this context or current context came to this point, and from which historical background, and how the cause itself was created or established. Who are behind it, and which powers are involved. Now, it's important to have this historical background, and unfortunately, many of us these days, especially young generations, we rely on the social media. We rely on the social cuts to understand sometimes complex context and complex causes. This is not sufficient to create awareness, solid awareness, and to engage people. So what is important is to find out first of all, about ourselves. What are like type of strengths what we have at the moment? What are the weaknesses we have? What are the potentials we have? To try to find out who are our supporters and who are going to be against us. This is all, in the, as I mentioned, in the context of our understanding of the reality of history and where we stand now. Without that, we cannot put any strategies. We can't mobilize people to support us. People to be influenced by what we talk to them about is very much dependent on the evidence we provide, on the correct information that we provide and the truth. We can't mobilize people if we provide lies and if we provide incorrect information. Unfortunately, sometimes in our movements, we try to make things in a hurry, and we do not verify the information we have. Sometimes we rely on third-party information or data, which makes it a bit risky for us, especially if we fall into using some false information or some false data. That will jeopardize our our confidence of people in us, and might jeopardize the cause we work on. So we have to make sure that the data and the information we use is verified and is accurate, and it has evidence. The other thing is which means of communication we have to increase people's awareness about their own grievances, about the cause we want them to rally behind or support. These days, there are so many means available to everybody, whether the social media, whether the mass media, whether words of mouth, or so forth. But it's important to find out which are the most accessible by the public or by the masses, and which are the least manipulated. As we see these days, we've been facing so many issues from the Western-owned social media outlets like Zoom or Facebook, who can actually censor whatever information we want to put, or what information that we want to communicate. Therefore, probably we have to find always alternatives, and also, if possible, in the South, we need some outlets that we have control on, and they cannot be manipulated or censored. I'll give you examples of on what just support whatever I mentioned earlier. When the colonial powers came to Africa or to the Middle East or the rest of the world, they studied us in and out. They knew our societies. They worked on our sociology, psychology, social relations. They knew what divides us and what connects us. And based on that, they put their strategies on how to colonize us and how to manipulate us, how to control us. They managed to find which groups probably will support them, which groups will resist them. They knew how to put us against each other. So without having such knowledge and such information, they will not be able to distort us. And for ourselves, if we want to influence Western powers, or if we want to influence Western societies, if we even want to influence our own people without having knowledge about our own selves, about our own societies, what are the linkages, who are the people who might support the cause we want to rally behind, or who might oppose it, we will not be able to strategize or put our plans and move forward. For example, when the Zionist movement started in early 19th century and early 20th century, first of all, they relied on so much information that was done by missionaries, done whether French or British or other colonists type of researchers. And that informed them on which probably groups in the Middle East could fight at that time against the Ottoman Empire, which groups can revolt, which groups can be manipulated and giving some promises for liberation from the Ottoman Empire, while actually the intentions of the colonial powers of France and Britain at that time was to get the Arab support against the Ottoman Empire and then colonize them and divide them to different countries. So without having that type of analysis and type of information we need, we will be short of doing our work correctly and the way we want it to be effective. This movement also relied on information and misleading from the beginning till today. For example, they use the Holocaust, which we do not deny, and we sympathize with the victims, but we do not agree with the Zionist movement, as many Jews actually do, that the victims of the Holocaust being utilized or used for the benefits of the Israeli colonial and occupation regime. Israel and the Zionist movement managed to manipulate the European citizen and feel them let them feel guilty about putting the Jewish community in Europe through what happened to them over history, and they got their sympathy to support the establishment of Israel and then the occupation. Only in the last 2-3 decades we started to find more people getting awareness and getting information from the right sources and the right information. So we have to keep that type of momentum, and we have to really also study also the European, the Americans, even the African context, and to understand what actually helps us to influence them and to make them support our cause. For other thing or another example that I might bring to the table is what Israel and the Zionist movement did so far in terms of manipulating the Old Testament stories. And they are pretending and trying to convince people all around, especially in Africa, that Israel is an extension of the old histories stories of the Bible. While we all know that Israel or the Jewish people never had control over Palestine since David time or since Solomon time. They never had any control or political presence except as a religious group, as Muslims and Christians in the region. But unfortunately, when you ask any people in Kenya or elsewhere, they will tell you that well, Israel is a promised land for Jewish, and this is a history proven, and this is an extension or a continuation of what was once before the kingdom of David. And this is where you can see the distortion of history and the manipulation of facts to manipulate people and rally them behind false causes and to support colonial and occupation powers without knowing. I think I'll stop by this. I don't know if I did my 10 minutes, but these are the main points that I would like to raise, and I'll be happy to take any comments or answer any questions later on.
All right. Thank you so much, Mohammed Khalid, for your contribution. I'd just like to remind all the participants who have just joined us. There is one panelist, she came late, but I'd like to introduce her. She's called Lina. Lina, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you? I think you're muted.
No, we hear you. Alaikum salam, Lina.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome. Because I had already arranged how you guys will be talking in turns. You'll come the last. Sorry, but inshallah, you'll be among. We are only like 5 of you, so you'll come last, inshallah. Okay. But during the proceedings, you just follow up, and if there's any question or any clarification, you will just ask me, and we'll clarify, inshallah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now we are going to Marianne. Marianne, she works with women in Social Justice Center. Marianne, if you can hear me, where are you?
I'm here.
Oh, all right. Welcome. Your floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. Take it up. It's your turn now. Okay.
Thank you so much. I will put off my video due to internet connection problems, right?
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Marianne, as the host has said. I'm the convener of Women in the Social to be part of today's discussion as we stand in solidarity with our people of Palestine. Yes. So I'll be speaking on the role of women in the liberation struggle. So Thomas Sankara said, I'll begin by quoting the words of Thomas Sankara, that there can be no true revolution without the true liberation of women. And I will call upon the men of the world to stand with us, with the women, and fight with us side by side against capitalism and imperialism that has always subjected women into poverty, violence, and exploitation. I can share this, that in both societies here in Kenya and Palestine, we've continued to see the state violate the rights of the women. The government has failed to protect the rights of the women. What is happening in Palestine? Children in Palestine, the killing of women in Palestine is the same thing that is happening, that the system has failed to protect women, that we can see in the informal settlement, our children are being killed, that we as women are no longer safe. The struggles that we have here in Kenya, which are the same struggles that the people of Palestine are still going through, that we as women, we continue to see the way the system continues to subject us into exploitation. I would ask this question: how much labor do we give to the capitalist as a lot of labor to the capitalist that has continued to subject us into poverty and to exploitation again? So I call upon women of the world to unite, to stand firmly, to fight against injustices, because we can no longer continue to stay silent as women and watch all this happen to us. We have to continue to fight as women, as our men stand in solidarity and fight with us side by side. We know as women, we're organizing in a struggle where patriarchy continues to exist. That is not easy for us to fight and organize as women. But we are not going to give up. We are going to stand strong to fight against injustices that have continued to happen to women. And so, what I can say is that I'm come together to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people, because the struggle of the people of Palestine is the struggle of the people of Kenya. And I can say I can say this, that we are in solidarity as women here in Kenya with the women of Palestine. We are going to continue to give our solidarity and stand strong to say no to what is happening to the people of Palestine. That the people of Palestine must be free. That the women of Palestine must be free to live in a society that we are not free. And so, hello?
Yeah, Marianne, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. And so, as we know, women are, as we know, like I can give the in Mau Mau, during the Mau Mau struggle that they played. But as I've said, knowing that we've always organized in a space where patriarchy continues to exist, struggle have not a lot. Women have played a big role, a major role in the liberation struggle. But it has always been washed away, the role that women have played. But I say, we, the women of today, we are not going to give up. We continue to push forward the liberation struggle that our women before have always fought for. They've always fought for the voice of women to be heard. And that is what we continue to fight as women of the world today. We continue to organize as women of the world today to fight against injustices that have continued to happen. So I think for me, I women to stand strong. Hey.
Hello, Marianne.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a moment where you went, I think your internet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So we, the women of Kenya, we stand in solidarity to demand peace and territorial justice to the people of Palestine, and call upon Israel to stop its cruel dominance and oppression to the people of Palestine. I think that is what I have for now.
All right. Thank you, Marianne. There's a moment there where your internet had issues. I'm sure there are a few people who kind of missed you. But in case anybody didn't get full information, probably they will ask later once the proceedings continue. So in case you didn't get any information well, inshallah, you'll ask. The third person that is supposed to come on board is our Sheikh Ali. And mainly what Sheikh Ali is going to tackle is our role as individuals in standing with the Palestinian. What are our roles as an individual person, you know? So Sheikh Ali, the floor is yours. Kindly come on board. You can introduce yourself and take it up.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hi, brothers and sisters. Hope you're doing fine. This is Ali Mwega, and thank you for my brother Muhammad and the committee who they prepared this program for us. May Allah bless you all. So today I want to talk about our role and responsibility. If we look at history, we see that humanity, like almost some 100 years ago, 80 years ago, we started a war, World War I, and unfortunately we did not learn from the First World War and decided to engage ourselves in another one, the Second World War. The idea was very simple. After what you have seen and death of almost 85 million human beings in this earth that we are living in, we assume that after that, we definitely have done something from the past, from the pains, from the cares, and from everything. But unfortunately, those who claimed that they were the most oppressed during the World War II, especially, they became the oppressor. In 1948, Palestine was occupied by Israel. And this continues till now, and it is even worse than before. If you look at this situation in Palestine, we see that this is not a situation that it is only about Palestinians. It's also about us. When you look at this situation, you see that there are three different categories when it comes to this situation and what is happening in Palestine. When you talk to someone and tell them that you know what is happening in Palestine, they say, I don't know. They don't know. In fact, many people, they praise Israel. And definitely in Kenya, you have seen people write them down, Jerusalem and things like that. The flags. They don't know what is happening there. The second group, they know what is happening, but they assume that that's a political problem between some people in some countries, like a problem, for example, in some town in Kenya. And we have the third group that they are just numb. Yes, they know what is happening. They know that Palestinians have been killed. People in Gaza, they live in a very miserable life. But they say, okay, I'm seeing this all in just screens. I'm seeing this just in screens. I cannot feel this. I cannot understand this. Let me give you an example. See, the biggest problem with whatever is happening in this world is that we avoid and we don't try to relate to other people. We do not try to put ourselves in their shoes. Imagine, I know definitely everyone knows George Floyd. Whatever happened to George Floyd was very bad. But the last things that George Floyd said was he was calling for his mother, an old guy calling for his mother. Now imagine we have incidents like George Floyd for kids that are underage, 13 years old, 12 years old, 11 years old. Someone's knees on his neck. And the mother, at least George Floyd's mother was not there. But this kid's mother, she's there. If it's a father, he's there. You see them and see these things. If you look at the situation in Gaza, you ask yourself, what is happening there? This is 2020, 2021. Are we still doing these things? We did not learn anything from our past. So if we decide to wait for the governments, if we decide to wait for the institution to do something, keep in mind, we are all equally we are all equally have responsibility toward these people. It doesn't mean because I'm this or you are that. No. These are our brothers. They are humans. And we need to think about a way that we can help them without waiting for the governments. Yes, if the government come and they close the Israel embassy, they decide to stop and boycott Israeli products and things like that, that's good. But how long should we wait for them? They are not doing that. We know they are not. So in Islam, we have this hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that is saying that when it comes to Amr bil Maruf, enjoining good and forbidding bad, when you want to stop something bad that is happening outside, or you are trying to teach people something good that it must happen outside, there are three different people and there are three different ways: your tongue, your hands, and your heart. The least that you can do regarding the situation in Palestine, at least to feel it, yeah, to resonate with them, to understand their situation. You know, when you feel it, when you meet someone, and you'll definitely end up telling them that this is happening. It's like, for example, you are in a big jam and there was this big accident. Definitely when you get home, you'll tell people, yeah, you could not change the jam, you could not help the people in this accident, but you felt it. So that's the least that you can do. The second thing is through your tongue. At least you can say, I stand with Palestine. I stand with these people. And that's very important. That's very important. For example, some of us will go for protests, but currently we cannot go. And the last and simplest way after that, which is the highest level of helping our brothers in Palestine, is with your hands. You are an artist. You can boycott these products. You can do this. You can do. There are many things that you can use as an action to stand with Palestinians against the occupation of their country. Let's not wait for other people to help our brothers in Palestine, our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Let's start with ourselves, with the smallest steps that we can take, inshallah. Shukran, brother Muhammad. May Allah bless you and the team for this work, inshallah. We all get this opportunity to help and stand with our brothers in Palestine, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shahati. Shukran. Just a reminder for the people who have joined. When you join, kindly make sure to mute your microphone so that you don't interfere with the presentation for others. Now, I would like us to go to our fourth panelist, Sister Naomi Baraza. She's from Kenya Palestine Solidarity Movement. Naomi will touch on the power of awareness in solidarity. Naomi, the floor is yours. You can hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Thank you, sister. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for hosting this. And we are honored to be speaking in this very, very noble course in the webinar. Thank you so much. My name, as you heard, is Naomi Barasa. I'm a human rights defender activist, and I am a member of Kenya and Palestine Solidarity Movement. I'm going to focus on the power of awareness in solidarity, because I basically think that if we were all aware, then we would probably increase the level of solidarity we show to our sisters and brothers in Palestine. And before I begin, I would like to start with a few statements that inspire me a lot in all my activism and advocacy, including the Palestinian one, that human rights violation anywhere is human rights violation everywhere. So if the Palestinians people's rights are violated, all our rights are violated wherever we are. That's number one. Number two, I strongly believe that standing up for Palestine is a sacred and godly mission. So all of us who proclaim God in whatever way must be part and parcel of this struggle, the Palestinian struggle. I also want to just declare that the occupation in Palestine and the Zionist regime atrocities are crimes against the human race and sin against God. So these are some of the places I find my inspiration to be part of this struggle. And I feel that I have an obligation and a role to play in this struggle. So I wanted to start by saying quite a number of things that I intended to say have been mentioned by previous speakers, from Brother Mohammed to Sister Marianne and our brother, the Sheikh. But nonetheless, I will still mention a few of them. And I'll start by saying that it is powerful to know the truth, and we must seek the truth, because the whole occupation, the whole domination, Israeli domination, is based on lies. Is based on lies, and we have all been bundled up in a small corner and fed with all the lies, and majority of us have fallen victims or fallen, I don't know what, they have consumed the lies. So I just want to start by saying that the Palestinian occupation is a system of oppression, very, very, very similar to the system we had in Kenya, pre-independent Kenya, the system of oppression during colonialism. And how does the system of oppression operate? Of course, the system of oppression operates in an environment where lies and fallacies are propagated, and people brainwashed to believe in those lies and fallacies. And in this particular struggle, I'm afraid to say, as a Christian, I feel too embarrassed to buy, and my fellow Christians to have bought this lie of Israel is the holy land, Israel is the promised land. Whoever rises against Israel shall be destroyed, as it is promised in the Bible. Such are very powerful statements that are founded on lies that keep this system, this oppression. And to fuel these lies and keep them alive, a lot of times we will see pilgrimages, for example, the pilgrimages that head to Jerusalem to propagate and consume the false narrative, basically to monopolize the truth around the Palestinian struggle and the Palestinian Israeli conflict. I just want to say that, like my sister Mary Ann has mentioned, what we see happening in Palestine is no different at all in any way from what we saw when Kenya was a British colony. We saw oppression in the form of massacres, in the form of genocides. I am not afraid to say that what we see in Palestine is genocide, and therefore this atrocity in essence qualify to be crimes against humanity. And therefore, a lot of accountability should be happening, and including at the Court of Crimes at The Hague. But it's unfortunate that the powers that be have not let that happen. The other thing I wanted to say is that we see a people that is struggling to be liberated. They're struggling to raise livelihoods. They're struggling to raise their children. They're struggling to raise food. They're struggling to be human. They're struggling to live in dignity, in housing, in movement. Cannot do that just because someone thinks that they are more human than others, that they are God-worthy than others in the name of Israel. I feel like it's important to mention that. And so for me, when we talk about God and the promised land and the Holy Land, we must bring in the equation of justice. God is a just God. God is a God of justice. And where there is no justice, it's an embarrassment to bring in the name of God. So I just want to denounce that, even though a lot of us Christians are more brainwashed than anyone else, there's no God there. There is no God. And unless it's a different God, unless it's a God of control of economy, a God of control of power, a God of domination, which I do not think the rest of us believe in. I also wanted to mention that these narratives that Israel uses in most cases to basically monopolize this truth are narratives of falsehood to play victim in the face of the world, so that people cannot hold Israel to account when they commit atrocities. They also use these falsehoods to brainwash us not to question what is happening, but they also try to validate the atrocities, the occupation, and the apartheid in the name of God. And finally, it is also occupying economic control. And look at what Israel is doing to all of us. Lately, Israel has been on a very, very aggressive mission to bribe all of us. They come to especially African countries and bribe us with technology, bribe us with weapons, bribe us with bloody irrigation knowledge and stuff. They're giving us scholarships. I think that all this is to bribe us so that we can validate the atrocities, the occupation and apartheid in the occupied Palestine. I think that some of the narratives that I feel must be popularized as lies include Israeli civilians are butchered by Palestinian terrorists, while we know that the opposite is true. We know that they have been telling us that the Israeli-Palestine conflict is a Christian-Muslim conflict, and where Christians are persecuted. We know that that is a big lie, and we know that Christians in Palestine are in the forefront of the struggle for liberation. They have tried to show us that women are victims in Israel because of Israel and Palestine because of the terrorists. That's bullshit, because we know women, as Marianne has said, are on the front line to fight for liberation. And so another lie that I feel that must be popularized, especially among the Christian folks in the world, is that Palestine-Israel problem is a political problem. It's not a religious problem. This is a state that was created by the UN in 1948. So it's a problem that can be resolved politically, but because people do not want to be part of this, because it touches, of course, on America, it touches on the powers that in quotes be, because I don't think there should be any powerful power beyond a nation that is involved. But anyway, that's how the world is. So I think that all these lies, when we hear that Palestinians are terrorists, they are just resisting. It's like someone has a gun and you have a stone, and then when this person shoots at you and you use your stone to protect yourself, I don't know who between the two people should be called a terrorist, but unfortunately, the media is part of this whole conspiracy. And we find ourselves every time being fed into this fallacy and this falsehood. And unfortunately, the reverse psychology of victimhood that Israel uses all the time is bought so easily by the media. I think we need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because I feel that this is mental slavery from the media to Christians to many other people who are involved, and that we must do a few things to disabuse ourselves from this falsehood, because we must stand on the right side of history when we'll be standing to be judged by what we did or what we did not do, omission or commission, on the struggle for the Palestinian. Because I said it is our struggle. The Palestinian struggle is our struggle, and it's a sacred struggle. It's a godly struggle. So when God will be judging us, we will be judged by which side of the conflict we stood. And I think for that reason, me as a Christian, me as a Kenyan, me as a woman and a human rights defender, I think we must stand on the right side of history. We must disabuse ourselves from the lies of Israel by, number one, calling the apartheid problem by its real name. by not quoting it, by not saying it's Muslim, Christian, blah, 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 just calling it by its real name. Number two, we must denounce the occupation. Otherwise, if we shut up, we will answer to our God why we were given a mouth, why we did not denounce, why we were given brains, why we did not see this. We must also stand to demand for justice. We must demand for justice in our own little ways, and they will count. We must disassociate ourselves with the fruits, with the, hello? So we must disassociate ourselves with the fruit of human rights violations. And in this, I am saying, if you know that anything related to Israel propagates the violation, disassociate with it by boycotting, by denouncing, by telling people what it is. Just do it. Boycott, do whatever you can so that you're not part of that bad history. And finally, we must popularize the Palestinian struggle using our various social platforms, because we know Palestine, America, and others are stakeholders of the most powerful media in the world, and therefore we must create our own alternative media platforms, media spaces to talk about the Palestinian struggle. And I want to conclude by saying we shall overcome. One day we shall stand liberated in Palestine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naomi. I'm sure for those who have been following the conversation, I can see some people already, they have been sending some questions, but at the end, when we have the session of question and answer, at least our panelists, just be sure that there are questions coming in a while. But our last panelist to speak today, it's Sister Lina. She's a Palestinian artist and an activist. And I would like Lina to talk more of, she's in Palestine. Probably you could give us a vivid description of how people, in Palestine are. Some people just see it in media, maybe Facebook or social media platforms only. But you being somebody who is over there, in your presentation, kindly, if it's possible, could also give us experience of Palestinians, real experience, how things are happening there, so that it's not just a story, but also a reality. Somebody who might think that whatever they get on social media is just hearsay, or somebody's exaggerating their stories. You are the ground. Please kindly share the experience and any other information that you'd like to put across. Welcome, Sister Lina.
Thank you for having me. I've been very honored to listen to all the panelists today, and all the ways that they connect to the Palestinian cause. I'd like to make a correction. My colleague was actually supposed to join this conversation from Sheikh al-Jarrah, which, as we know, is a neighborhood within Jerusalem that is currently being threatened by the Israeli occupation. Over around 30 families are being threatened of eviction. And he was unfortunately unable to make it because his brother was arrested. He's facing very difficult circumstances. And so I was asked to fill in. So my name is Lina Abu Jarada, and as mentioned, I'm a Palestinian artist, but unfortunately I do not live in Palestine. As many of Palestinians that live in the diaspora, we're prevented from going back to our homeland. And obviously it's a dream of mine to be able to return to my home country, the place of my ancestors, but unfortunately at this time, I'm not allowed entry. Which just shows, the hypocrisy of this Israeli colonialist project that justifies the presence of, mostly European Jews to the return of their, the land of their ancestors, when they haven't inhabited this land for over 3,000 years. But me, as a Palestinian, who my own grandfather lived in Palestine, it hasn't been over 73 years, and I'm not allowed to live in that land. And so that just kind of shows you the very hypocrisy of the Zionist argument of the promised land, or it's the land of our ancestors, considering that, Palestinian Arabs have ties to the Canaanites, very historic people of the land of Palestine, and given that, their ancestry traces back to thousands of years. But as has been mentioned, it's not really an argument of who was there first on this land, who are the true descendants of the land of historic Palestine. It's really, as mentioned, it's a cause of justice. It just simply makes sense that you do not kill women and children. You don't imprison women as young as 12 years old, children as young as 12 years old. Just recently, a child named Said Rode was killed, and he's only 16 years old. And what was his crime? He simply is a Palestinian living in a land being occupied and colonized by a people who believe that they are superior. And this really is an important point to make, that the state of Israel is built on the legacies of colonialism, something that Kenya has suffered for many years, something that African and Middle Eastern countries and Asian countries have suffered from. And the basis of colonialism, the way that white imperialist European powers were able to justify the atrocities committed in the name of colonialism, was by belittling the other, was by creating categories or hierarchies of human value. And so this is how constructs such as race and nationality and citizenship came to be. So before, let's say, the 17th century, these constructs weren't here. We didn't see each other through color or through race. And so they created these constructs to kind of divide us into hierarchies of white man or white Christian is at the top of this hierarchy, and then the African or Middle Eastern is at the bottom. And so Israel has very much used this concept, and we can see this in the derogatory terms that they use when regarding Palestinian Arabs, using terms such as death to all Arabs or a dirty Arab. Palestinians were painted to be as peasants that were poor, that were uncivilized. And so that is why they had the support of, the European civilized world, that, this group of very civilized Jewish people were going to come and cultivate the land of Palestine and make it something better for the world, make it a better place for the world. Unfortunately, what we're seeing now is that Israel is the very opposite of this rhetoric. Israel is not a force of peace for the world. It has arm exports and sales for some of the world's most brutal dictatorships, weapons that are tested on Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank, which they consider kind of as a testing field for these weapons, are being exported all over the world to fight against human rights activists. Trump, kind of used the West Bank apartheid wall as a blueprint for the wall between the US and Mexico. And so this is the legacy of Israel. It's not a democracy. It's not a force of peace or justice or anything good for the world. And I think, as was mentioned, all of us, whether that's Jews who truly believe in the true practices of Judaism, whether that's Christians, whether that's Muslims, whether that's anyone from any background who believes in human rights, we need to work to dismantle this presence that is creating war and dysfunction and is really a threat to peace for the entire region and the entire world. So having these conversations, I think, is very important for us Palestinians to feel a sense of solidarity. I have many relatives who've been imprisoned, who have faced many injustices from the Israeli colonization. And I know that it makes them feel very much like they are part of this global community and that they're not alone. And some might argue that, just us talking about this doesn't really have a great impact. But on the contrary, this global solidarity we're seeing, which is really a legacy of people like Malcolm X and Nelson Mandela, who truly believed that justice should be international. I think this is very important, and it's what helped South Africa dismantle its apartheid regime. And recently this month, we saw that Human Rights Watch released a report that shows that Israel is truly an apartheid state. And this step is a big step towards international organizations coming out and saying that we reject what is happening to Palestinians. And the more that time goes on, the more that people will begin to see Israel's crimes and atrocities, and the less they'll be able to use arguments of the Holocaust, or arguments of the Jews being the persecuted people, or framing themselves as victims. This is slowly beginning to disappear. So as an artist, I utilize storytelling in order to tell the story of Palestinians, because I think it's so important to humanize Palestinians. Obviously, the Zionist Israeli state works very hard to dehumanize Palestinians. First, as an inferior race. Second, as terrorists. Obviously, after 9/11, this rhetoric of terrorism is something that's been used to dehumanize people within the Middle East. And so my storytelling through art kind of counters that. I want to show people from all around the world that we're all human. We all bleed red. We all share the same suffering. And I want to allow them to connect to Palestinians on a human level. And so for the past 10 years, I've been using different mediums of art in order to tell the story. I use poetry, and I use video, and I use different artworks, sand art, salt art, all of these different tools in order to really portray that story. And if we look at the history of Palestinian art was very important in mobilizing Palestinians. Posters were used in order to announce gatherings and in order to draw parallels between South Africa, Vietnam, and Palestine. We've seen how Israel has assassinated artists such as Najil Ali and such as Ghassan Kanafani. And so this truly shows how afraid they are of the power of visualizing of a free Palestine. What artists do is amazing because they can visualize an alternative world, a free Palestine, a Palestine that is free of colonialism. And this is very dangerous to them. And so obviously I can't, fight with, physically for Palestinian liberation, but what I can do is use my brush and my words as a tool in order to create that awareness within the generations that are here today. I'm not sure if I'm going to live to see a free Palestine. I really hope so. But my role is to ensure that the younger generations that live outside of Palestine, whether that's in Jordan, Lebanon, the Middle East, America, anywhere in the world, in addition to people who believe in human rights and justice, are able to keep this message alive. Because as Ghassan Kanafani said, the bodies might fall and a body might die, but an idea of freedom will never die. And so I try to connect with the younger generations. I even use TikTok, I use Instagram, I use all of these social media tools in order to really reach them with this idea that Palestine is an international, global social justice cause. And so for anyone here today, I would just encourage you to find whatever talent that you have. It could be being a speaker, it could be art, it could be poetry, it could be anything, and really use that as a tool to try to highlight the plights of Palestinians. And I think it's important for us here, all of us here, to fight for all social justice causes. So I'm very active with the rights for Black Americans in the United States and the oppression that they're facing today. I'm against any type of injustice that happens to any type of people, because, as we said, these are global causes, and none of us are truly free unless everyone is free. And so this is what I wanted to share, and I hope that I gave some sort of additional insight to the previous speakers. I just wanted to mention my grandfather recently passed away, and he had such a tough history. He was expelled from Jaffa in Palestine in 1948, and then once again in 1967 from the West Bank. And then he had to go through so many hardships in being a displaced person. It's so difficult not having a home. And my home is through his memories, memories that I never even lived. And so being Palestinian is very difficult because you never truly feel like you're at home. But what does make us feel like we belong are these events and these solidarity movements that truly make us feel like we are part of a group that's bigger than us. So I want to thank you once again for holding such an important event. And it really gives me hope to see that, Kenya, different African countries are coming together in order to reject Palestinian oppression. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Thank you so much. I'm sure everybody in the platform, they've really gained from what you've shared, and we really appreciate, because most of us, we just hear these things from media, from people who also are not really connected to the real Palestinians like you. So it's really insightful for what you've shared, and we thank you so much. And it's an honor that you are part of the panelists tonight here in our discussion. All right, there is a small video that I would like to share with people here on the platform before we go to our session for question and answer, because there are people who have asked some questions. There are two questions that I feel like they need to be clarified. But before we do that, let me try and share this video here. Just a Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Is there any voice?
I don't think the audio is working.
Is the audio being heard?
No, there's no
Not
sound.
on my end.
Hello?
We can't hear.
You can't hear the audio?
Yes, we can't.
Okay, just a minute.
We can't hear the audio.
Oh, okay. Just let me try and fix it.
I think there's an option that allows you to play the sound.
I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe I'll add something to what Naomi said earlier.
Yes, please.
About the relationship between Israel and African countries, especially the governments. I'm currently in Sudan, in Darfur, and I hear on the news about a secret agreement between the Israeli government and the Sudanese government, in which they agreed to send back 5,000 Sudanese, South Sudanese, Eritreans, Ethiopians, and other African refugees who managed to go to Israel, or whatever, what is called Israel, and they've been actually put in jail in the Negev desert. So the agreement is that they want to send them back to Sudan, and from there they will be distributed to their country of origin. This type of agreement, they proposed it before to Rwanda last year when Netanyahu, or the year before, when Netanyahu visited Kenya and met the various African leaders in the State House in Nairobi. And at that time, they proposed actually to give Rwanda $5,000 for each refugee they receive from Israel. And then they got embarrassed. So now they're trying to do the same with Sudan. So this gives us exactly the type of mentality we've been facing in Palestine. They're not just they're not only violating our human rights, but actually they have no human rights for anyone, or no respect of any human rights of anyone, whether Africans, whether even Americans. As Lena said, I don't know if Lena, if you are in the US or somewhere else, but as a Palestinian origin, you are not allowed to come in, even if you have probably a citizenship in the States, which shows that even citizens from the United States, the government or the state that supports Israel, by all means, its citizens are discriminated against. So this is just one thing to mention. Other thing is about the previous relationships between Israel and the apartheid regime in South Africa. We all know that Israel was one of the most countries supported the apartheid regime then, and they supported them even creating or establishing their atomic powers or research at that time. Yeah, that's all what I need. Hope you fix your audio by now.
Thank you for coming in. But unfortunately, I cannot get the option to share the audio here. But I just want to tell everybody that these videos, I'll upload them on our YouTube platform. So in case if you are not able to watch it at this session, inshallah, people can, I'll share the link so that people can go on the YouTube and be able to watch it. I have two questions that I would like to share with Brother Muhammad and Lena. But first of all, I'll go with Brother Muhammad. Now, there's somebody who had asked, basically your discussion was touching across information, where to get the right information, the facts. Now, somebody was asking, what are the correct forum to get factual information on Palestine? Because nowadays people get this information anywhere. How are you supposed to verify that this information that we are being fed, either people who are outside the Middle East, or you're in Africa, or maybe you're in Europe? Could you maybe give an idea or just touch on the few forums or sites that somebody can go there and get the factual information on Palestine? Because not everything is factual that we get, even in the mainstream media. So what could be the advice to such a person who was asked this question? Please, Muhammad.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is important, but unfortunately, I want to start with ourselves on the Palestinian side. The Palestinian Authority is actually weak. I would say it bluntly, in terms of distributing information about what is going on in Palestine, and also to share all the atrocities the Israelis are imposing on the Palestinian people on a daily basis. But there are some Palestinian NGOs and civil society organizations who are specialized, whether in human rights in general or in child rights. They record and report on abuses of Israelis against Palestinian children. There are some organizations who work and report on house demolishing, land confiscation, and so forth. There are also some international forums, and you find many of them on the internet. I don't recall them now, but at least if you go, for example, Lina mentioned the Human Rights Watch report that came lately, and in its annexes, it makes reference to so many other reports from other sources. So this can be looked at and followed to find more information. There are so many UN reports that came from OCHA or from specialized agencies, and all of them report on Palestinian living conditions under occupation. They speak about how Israelis, for example, confiscate or control water resources, farms, how they destroy houses, about detainees and how they treat detainees in Israeli jails and prisons. So there are many forums. If anyone wants to find information, literally easy to search and find. The problem is that with our current life and everybody is busy in his own way of living, we tend to be very much relying on Facebook and small information that comes through media outlets. And often, unfortunately, Israelis are manipulating this. And in many cases, you find some, for example, Facebook accounts or other media outlets, or on other media outlets, some accounts that they pretend to be Arabs or Palestinians, but in fact they are Israelis, and they are managed by Israeli security officers, and who try to spread false information. It might look as a pro-Palestinian, but they actually put some false information to distort facts. Yeah, I hope I answered your question. Probably Lina have some knowledge about more information if you are in, working in arts, and I believe you have some access to this information. If you can share it, please.
All right, thank you so much. The second question will go to Lina. I don't know, but I feel like you're the right person to answer this question. There is somebody asking, do the Palestinians see an end to the war? Will they and the Israelites ever coexist to equal partners? Do you ever see this happening? From the people, the Palestinians that you talk to, your family, do you ever think this will ever come to happen?
Yeah. So just before I answer this question, I just wanted to add to Muhammad's answer. There are even Israeli scholars that have published books that talk about how, the massacres of 1948, how is the state of Israel came to be. So I would recommend reading Ilan Pape's work on the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. There are many other books by Norman Finkelstein, Gideon Levy, Noam Chomsky. There are even human rights organizations like Beit Salim, which are based by Israeli Jews who are against the Israeli colonization and occupation of Palestine. So definitely check those out, because if Israelis are coming out and saying this is our bloody history, I think that really shows us that truly Israel does have this history. So in terms of your question, I think many people around the world kind of feel like Palestinians are the reason why peace isn't happening. And this is not true. They have this idea that Palestinians are completely against a Jewish presence in Palestine. And if we were to look back at the 18th century, Palestinians who were Christian, who were Jewish, and who were Muslim were all living peacefully. Jews were often coming to Palestine for religious reasons, for pilgrimages, and they were welcomed. There was never this problem between, it has never been a religious issue between Jews and Muslims. Our problem was when massive Jewish immigration, which was, which happened in huge, massive numbers in order to establish a colonial state. This was our problem with Jewish immigration. And there are many, many polls that show that people in the West Bank, even people in Gaza, would be for a one-state peaceful solution where everyone has equal rights. And people don't know this. They think that Palestinians are completely opposed to peace, but Palestinians just want to live a life of dignity. And so even Hamas, which is considered to be, a huge terrorist organization around the world, have come out and said that they are willing to establish peace if Israel was to adhere to the 1967 borders, for example. But the thing is, the Zionist project, within its very foundation is based on superiority and racism. And so an exclusive Jewish state, as Edward Said mentions, this idea of an exclusive Jewish state automatically means that Palestinians will never, ever attain equal rights, whether this is Palestinians with Israeli citizenship, or whether that's Palestinians living in the West Bank. And so I think Palestinians would want to live in one country, one democratic country that views the Jew, the Palestinian, regardless of ethnicity and religion, as one with equal rights, without an occupation, without any sort of discrimination, not under an apartheid regime. But of course, for the Israeli colonization project, this is probably out of the question, because if there was one democratic state, the Palestinians as a population will outgrow the Jewish presence. And to them, this is a threat. And to them, this is out of the question. So we've seen Zionists across history, Netanyahu recently, have continuously come out and have said that we will never allow for a Palestinian sovereign state. We will never allow, we will always work for this Jewish presence from the river to the sea. And so even the idea of a Palestinian state, which the Oslo Accords came to kind of create, is also, it's not a real idea. What exists today in what we know as Palestine is not a sovereign state. It is under military occupation. Israel controls its economics. It controls its borders. It even controls its educational system. It has complete control over Palestinians. So it's not a sovereign state. And so, as mentioned, the one truly fair solution is a one-state solution, allowing Palestinians outside of Palestine the right of return, reparations, such as those that were paid from Germany to the Jews who suffered in the Holocaust. These are the only conditions under which justice can truly be attained. And obviously, we're all working for that. And I think even among Israeli, we are seeing activists, we are seeing people who are refusing to serve in the IDF and who are being imprisoned. We are seeing a change in mindset and a shift. And this isn't just my words. So many scholars and people have been pushing for the two-state solution, but even Jews, Jewish activists outside of Israel have said the two-state solution is dead. As long as Israel continues to create illegal settlements and continues to create plans to annex parts of Palestine and continues to evict and demolish homes, there's no such thing as a two-state solution. So I think the global conscience and the global awareness is shifting towards a one-state solution, which is a democracy for all of its people.
Thank you so much. Looking at our time here, I think we are right on time. So I would just love to give a vote of thanks to every person that had the time to join us tonight in this discussion. To our panelists, Hamed, Khalid, thank you so much for creating
Thank
time
you.
and being part of this noble cause. Sister Lina, I appreciate so much. Thank you so much for being part of this. Naomi Barasa, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you had time to create and be part of this noble cause also.
Thank you too.
Yeah, and Sister Marianne, thank you so much. I appreciate. Thank you, and for your patience also. And I had to finish on time because our sisters and brothers who had fasted, they had not taken their iftar. So I also have to be punctual, not to make somebody stay here for long and have not taken their iftar. And I hope that in the days to come, this is not the first and the last forum that we're going to have. This is upon, like Sheikh Ali had said, it is upon each and every person, an individual level to try your best. You can post something on social media. You can be part of any forum discussion, just do it from the comfort of your home. But those who created time to be part of this meeting today, I really appreciate, and we thank you so much. Hoping to see you again when we celebrate Quds, inshallah. And thank you. And in case of any inconvenience, technical hitches, I'm really, really sorry for that. This is technology, so things might not go as you planned. So I hope everybody that is part of this can understand.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
All
Take
right,
care.
and we thank you on behalf, because Quds Committee Kenya is the one that organized this. So we also give vote of thanks on their behalf, and thank you so much. All right, I appreciate.
Take care. Bye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.